Actress Caterina Scorsone, she's Italian. She plays the role that many girls have only dreamed about in a new modern-day reimagined spin-off of Alice's Adventures, Alice in Wonderland. Caterina joins us now to tell us about Syfy's new 4-hour movie event. 4 hours, it's called Alice. Caterina, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Scorsone.
Scorsone.
I like that.
Yeah.
Italian, huh?
Yes, indeed.
And one of the first things I said to you before the interview started, I said, do you wear a blonde wig?
I do not.
You do not. So
no.
that's one of the changes we're going to see in this spin-off.
Yeah, that's kind of the most visually obvious, right, from the beginning of the movie is Alice is brunette.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Sort of, you know, changing the, what we grew up with,
yeah,
you might
kind
say.
Of indicates that this is a totally different spin on things. Yeah.
So that aside from the hair color, how so? How is it different?
The whole movie is really different. This movie is kind of it's a 4-hour adventure film that really kind of has a coherent plot and a love story and some kind of psychological dimension to Alice's character. The original story was more like a series of vignettes. Alice, this young girl, kind of wanders into Wonderland and meets all of these fabulous characters in these isolated kind of adventures. And so this has more of an adventure plot. So it tips
an arc, maybe.
Yeah. It tips its hat to kind of all of the characters and themes that Lewis Carroll immortalized, but it's a very different story.
It's a 4-hour movie event.
Yeah.
Wowza. Tell us about some of the shooting involved. How long did it take to shoot a 4-hour movie?
We did it at breakneck speed. I think we shot the entire thing in 44 days. So it was, yeah.
I mean, some movie, 1.5-hour movies
take like 6 months.
Yeah, or maybe a year. But you shot a 4-hour movie.
We basically like did up our seatbelts and.
Yeah. Was there a lot of retakes then, or you really just had one take?
We had limited time. It was more like the schedule that you would find on like a 1-hour drama where you're shooting like 10 pages a day. And thanks to Nick Willing, who was our director, we got it all done. He was incredibly prepared, and so it was fully storyboarded, and he was really ready to go. And we had a week and a half of rehearsal before we started, so we kind of worked out a lot of what would usually be worked out on a set. And so yeah, we somehow managed it. And then it went into post-production, and they did all of the kind of special effects and CGI that you'll see.
Is there a lot of CGI involved?
There's a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's Wonderland, so there's magic everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's like a Jabberwock, and we fly on these like pink Vespa flamingos to a certain point. So that's all CGI, green screen and stuff.
I'm always curious. I've always been curious about the rehearsal process or the table read.
Yeah.
Are you guys off book, or is the rehearsal?
Not generally.
Okay.
I mean, Matt Frewer, who plays the White Knight, was astonishingly like off book by the time we were in the read through, which is amazing because he had these massive monologues. But generally speaking, yeah, you're kind of like drinking coffee and like in a toque and mumbling through the script at the read through. But then in this process, we had a week to kind of really take the script apart and get into some of the kind of deeper themes that Nick had woven into it, and some of the kind of psychological themes that he kind of put in there.
We should say Kathy Bates is a part of the cast.
Yes.
Oh, one of my favorites. Yeah. Tell us, what was it like working with her?
Well, she was playing the Queen of Hearts, which was perfect casting. It was amazing working with her. I mean, she's an icon and a personal hero of mine, and she had this gravitas to her, coming into the character that made the Queen of Hearts, larger than life. And so it was kind of.
So what would you say if you took one thing away from working with her? What would it be?
Her focus was incredible. Every time you work with somebody that's that formidable, you kind of want to pick up what is it about you that makes all of your performances and all of your characters stand out so much. Her focus on the set was so 100%. It was really kind of inspiring.
Sorry, what did you say?
Her focus was so.
Sorry, it's not focusing now. Just kidding. No, I got it. No, it sounds. I mean, working with a living legend, really.
Yeah. So she has all of the talent and all of the tools and everything, but that doesn't mean that she's going to wing it. Like, she really kind of. Yeah.
And is it true that your character looks for love in this version? That's exciting.
That's different. In the initial version, she's a child, and so the romance aspect isn't kind of one of the big themes. But in this one, she's in her 20s, and she's got some romantic scars, and that she's working out on some daddy issues, and so
daddy issues. Oh, God. Even Alice in Wonderland has daddy issues.
Especially Alice
for the
in
rest
Wonderland.
Of us. Okay.
And so a lot of kind of the journey that she's on has to do with her romantic metaphor.
Yeah. And would you say, in terms of preparation, were you a big fan of this growing up, or was this a whole genre that you really had to start researching, from A to Z?
The genre of the film I loved. I was super into sci-fi fantasy. I loved like Labyrinth and Princess Bride and all of those movies. Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland itself, when I encountered it as a child, I was horrified by the story. Yeah, I remember my mother reading it to us, and the way Lewis Carroll kind of plays with logic and turns everything on its head. As a child, I was still like trying to figure out what was real. And so encountering it all messed with was terrible and like really disturbing. But then, coming to it as an adult, it's a whole different experience.
Must be a thrill.
Kind of enjoy it.
Yeah. Leslie, I want to ask you about Tim Burton, because I know he has another version coming out pretty soon. What do you think it is about this story that's so appealing?
I do have theories about that.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, first of all, Lewis Carroll's books are brilliant. I mean, he's written stories that 150 years later we're still fascinated by, and I think there's something really, it taps into something deeply human, fears and anxieties and delight that we can still relate to. But in terms of why right now Alice in Wonderland is popping up,
it's buzzy.
I mean, my theory is that, post 9/11, the world changed dramatically in so many ways, economically and politically, and everything kind of went like this. And so there is this kind of sense that we're all kind of wandering around wide-eyed in this, magically transformed world and wondering which way is up. And so I think that kind of wonder and illogic and trying to figure out what's going on is topical.
It taps into that. And I agree with you. I think it's a story like Lewis Carroll's books. They just transcend time and gender and race. And
fantasy, sci-fi tends to,
will continue forever. Well, thank you. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, and good luck with the movie. 4 hours. That's awesome. All right.
ABC News Now. Good to know.